Here we got Coffee by Wolfsam. I want to mention that this comic is still going. We're currently at page 37 at the time of this vid, but there's plenty of the stuffs that have happened so far that I feel I can comment on, so we just can go for it. We start in this coffee bar place with Miss Cat and Miss Tiger, and it's pretty much immediately that the comic tells you exactly what this thing is gonna be about. These two is gonna hook up, and I don't mind you getting to the point immediately. The first 3 pages sets up the basic, how main girl plus love interest meets. We get shown that this be shy girl, this be social butterfly, Cat's in cool leg, and Tiger obviously works at the local coffee bar. If I got to be nitpicky, I think the counter is looking a little empty. If I just pop some pics of cafe counters on screen right now, let you all take that in for a sec, and then I show you this panel from the comic, I think you already get what I mean without me having to say more. There's a few more tweaks you could add to the cafe, like, why is there only one spot next to the big window? This kind of spot is like the best in the entire cafe, so why not have as many tables as possible here? It can do good stuff when you put some extra thought into your locations to make sure that they actually look like believable places, but it is details. We get home to Main Cat here, and this is where I'm missing a bit more something crucial. I think romance is a lot more interesting if we really get to know and understand the characters involved in it, but we don't get that much about Miss Cat. We hear all about the Tiger girl later on when they're talking at the party, and that was really good. But my problem is that we don't get a lot more of that. Catgirl is like the main character, but all the stuff we hear about her feels like kind of surface level. We get told some stuff about her, but it all feels like outcomes of a deeper character which doesn't get explored. Catgirl, to me, seems like a hard thinker. Like, she's running through a lot of thoughts in her own mind at all times. And sure, this can come out as anxiety on a bad day, but on a good day this can come out as a way more complex understanding and more creative ideas, aka smart cookiness. Her being introverted isn't necessarily just her being born in a certain way, but maybe it's just the result of her having a hard time just finding people who understand / relate to her. This is my attempt at reading into your character, but this was just an example of the kind of stuff that I'd like to hear more about. First, show us Catgirl as a person, and once we understand her, then we can look into her relationship with other characters, and how it is that Miss Tiger enables her to stop projecting all these negative outcomes in her mind and suddenly loosens her up enough to focus on other stuff. Moving along, I think the masturbation scene could use a bit more love. Up to this point, Miss Cat has been narrating all her thoughts for us, yet the second she starts smacking the beaver, that immediately stops. We barely even get to see her facial expression either, except for at the end where the black part of her eyes is gone, I think? I'm missing a bit more her in the scene, and on top of that, the whole thing felt a bit artificial. Like, there's 2 points where we get a close-up of her squeezing her nips, but the way it's structured, it's like she just squeezes her one nip, then immediately removes her hand again, a little while passes, repeat. Does anyone actually do that? It feels like these nip pinches are there just for the reader's sake or something. It just feels off. I think I get what you went for with this panel of her tail. Like, the hairs was supposed to stand sort of chill down your spine-ish, right? But the fur looks more messy than standing. And the little effects just gives me the feeling that someone dropped a balloon on her tail instead of communicating this intensity that we want. The toe spread I wasn't super fond of either, even though I usually like toe spreads, but I think you've given it more of a twitchy feel, which I don't think a toe spread is supposed to have. Like, can you imagine a toe spreading foot twitching? That just seems kinda odd to me. I think it's supposed to feel tense, maybe a little wobbly, but not twitchy. And then down here, her arm feels not awfully tense compared to her legs. It's like there's a kind of disconnect between her lower and her upper half. And I think if you changed her arm to be more like this, then that'd solve this for me. These are all little elements that I think didn't make this scene pop as much as I think it could have, but I think a bit of flow through this whole thing is missing too. When I look at a really well done comic page like this or like this, then there's a really natural flow that fleshes out the whole scene really clearly for me. And I'm not getting that here. These shots doesn't feel like they come together to really paint a clear scene for me, but instead, they feel kinda scattered and almost a little random. Later in the story, when we get to the party, here's a page I actually really did like. This one where the cat girl is getting dressed and she's getting anxious about dressing a bit more showy. The way we get to hear her entire line of thoughts going back and forth with the panels almost blending together behind it, that was really good. When I was clicking next and she was about to go inside, I felt like I was in this with her. I'd gone completely immersed in this through her thoughts, and I was feeling a bit of her anxiety. This was really good. It would have been nice if we followed up on it once we got inside. Like maybe she started getting anxious again once the tiger girl took her shirt off, or maybe she suddenly felt more comfortable showing some fur after seeing that there's folks dressed way more skimpy than her. But you know, just somehow acknowledging this. But continue this really good thought narration, and don't be afraid to dip into it regularly so we can really get into the mind of the main girl here. Alright, that's this one. Hope y'all learned something. Remember to drop a comment if you think I missed something, or if you just have a different take on some of the stuff I talked about. That it, eat your vegetables.